Hey everyone, Britta Albert here. If this is your first time here, I'm a spiritual transformational life coach. It's my goal for this channel to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. In today's video, we are continuing on with our series on the clairs, and we'll be talking about the most well-known clair of them all, clairvoyance. Now, just like I said in the last video on the clairs, clairvoyance is French for clear seeing. The dictionary's definition of clairvoyance is the ability to see beyond the range of ordinary perception. So how can clairvoyance be observed? How do you experience clairvoyance? Like I said in the last video, we all have the ability to have the clairs. Not all of us have all the clairs though. Just like some people are born blind or something happens, maybe not everybody has clairvoyance. But generally speaking, the vast majority of people have clairvoyance on some level. Either it's going to be really sensitive, really intense, or it might be kind of one of the lower senses, but you still have these abilities. So with clairvoyance, it's not necessarily always about seeing the future and getting these premonitions. That is actually going to be closer to claircognizance, clair-knowing. But with clairvoyance, clair-seeing, that's when you can see spirits, you might see entities, but beyond that, you can actually see auras, you can see energy. And auras aren't just on people. They're on plants, they're on animals, anything that's living. Even the sky has its own aura. Now, clairvoyance is not always clear seeing with the eyes. If you see the video that I talked about growing up, what it was like to see ghosts, I really go in depth on what that experience is like for me. But in a nutshell, I don't always see entities, spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call them, with my physical eyes. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I see them as orbs of light. Sometimes I see them as shadow figures, shadow entities. Sometimes I actually will see like the embodiment of a person, which is the most rare form for me specifically. Most of the time, it's more like echolocation, where you send out energy and it bounces off whatever is around, it comes back, and it forms this mental picture. So if you've ever used boat sonar, if you've ever been on a boat and used sonar and you're looking for fish or things like that, the waves go down and whatever they touch on comes back up and it shows up on a picture on a reading. That's similar to what happens in my mind, only it's much clearer. So when I see an entity, or say if it's a spirit of a person, I can tell you where they are in the room. I can tell you what they're wearing. I can tell you how old they are. I can tell you the color of their skin. I can tell you if they're making a facial expression. I can tell you if they're moving around. All of that I see in my mind, but I don't necessarily see it with my eyes. So clairvoyance is not necessarily just the physical sense of seeing, but it can be the mental image as well. Believe it or not, we've actually seen clairvoyance pop up in pop culture several times. Of course, there's several movies that talk about it and have it hyped up to be this mystical thing or supernatural ability. But that aside, you've probably heard the term third eye before. That is your pineal gland. That is an actual gland in your brain, and it's located right on your brow, in between both brows, more in the center of your brain. The pineal gland is believed to assist with this ability. It can have a calcium buildup, which can inhibit the ability to access the third eye, to have access to that specific chakra point, to have access to your clairvoyant abilities. So by decalcifying it, taking care of your body, making healthy choices as far as what you consume, then that will assist you in your ability to see. Now, what does science say about clairvoyance? Well, I wanted to show two scientific studies, one that was pro and one that was con. And I will tell you, I was not able to find one that was against or con clairvoyance. It's not to say that they don't exist. It's to say that they exist in the plenty. However, I could not find one that was even remotely as close to the most famous study that I was able to find on the pro side of clairvoyance. And when I say that, I'm talking about as close to apples as possible, to have the number of subjects, to have the detailed scrutiny of the tests, to have it to be the most professional studies. I could not find one that was to show against clairvoyance that took the same steps and was as thorough as this one. So I'll just tell you that you can go and you can Google scientific studies of clairvoyance. You'll see plenty of articles that give opinions. I highly recommend to look for actual case studies and then make your decision based off of that, because I was unable to find one that was as thorough as the study that I'm about to share with you. And I've seen some that were as low as 12 participants in the case study, and that's just not enough data to have conclusive evidence for or against something. So bear that in mind when you do your research. I'm not saying that there's not a very thorough case study out there that is against clairvoyance. I'm simply saying I did not find one that was comparable to the one I'm about to show you. Back in 2011, there's a 10-year study that was published by Bems. In this study, Mr. Bems had thousands of subjects and 9 total experiments, 8 of which yielded the same results. He tried to ensure that he had the most intense textbook scrutinizing tests. He wanted to make sure that his results were replicatable. And on the last video, the introductory video to the clairs, that was actually one of the points that I made why science considers the clairs pseudoscience, is because the results are difficult to replicate. But Mr. Bems was actually able to replicate them quite well and was able to hand over data to anybody else who wanted to replicate them in their labs as well. Now, this turned the study of psychology on its head, and many people were not happy. When it comes to scientific data, things should be scrutinized. They should be studied by the peers. They should be replicatable. These are things that we all agree. So even with all of this data, there are still strong skeptics out there. Many of his peers rejected the idea so strongly that they actually called for a reform in the way that we analyze data. And Mr. Bems double and triple checked to make sure there were no glitches in the randomization of his stimuli. He tried to go every possible way that he could to make sure that this data was scrutinized and was replicatable so that he could prove once and for all that clairvoyance existed.
Now, this is an excerpt from an article about this study. But for most observers, at least the mainstream ones, the paper posed a very difficult dilemma. It was both methodically sound and logically insane. Bems had seemed to prove that time can flow in 2 directions, that ESP is real. If you bought into those results, you'd be admitting that much of what you understood about the universe was wrong. If you rejected them, you'd be admitting that something almost as momentous, that the standard method of psychology cannot be trusted, and that much of what gets published in the field, and thus much of what we think we understand about the mind, could be totally bunk.
Down in the description below, I have links to all my sources. There you'll actually find Bems' website. If you want to check out the findings for yourself, feel free to click on that link and it will take you to the actual publishing that was in the journal so that you can read it for yourself and decide what you think. So why are the clairs important? Why did we develop this ability so long ago, and why have we lost it now? Well, again, this was part of Mr. Bems' case study, and he gives his examples and his theories in his publishing. For me, I believe that it came from a place and a necessity of survival. So it's not to say that we don't still need them for survival. I think it's just so much as we don't even know what we have. We just think that it's our imagination, or we think we have different socially acceptable names for it, like thinking with your gut, or sometimes they'll call it your intuition or things like that. When you are somewhere and you just know that it's not safe and you can pick up on the energy of a place and you feel paranoia, like those are the clairs. This is literally stuff that we use all the time. But when we label it as clairs, we have this taboo idea about it that it's some mystic superpower that not everybody has. I simply want to offer the perspective that It is something very normal that everybody has access to, and it's just another extension to who we already are. Now, how can you best use it for survival? Well, like I just said, when you understand what you're experiencing, number one, you feel a lot less crazy. Number two, it's a lot less scary, and you can use it to your benefit because let's just take aside seeing ghosts and entities and things like that. When you can understand your fellow humans better, when you can understand if you're being manipulated, you can understand if this person who you're talking to has bad intentions. Imagine what would happen in our legal systems and in our governments if we all could see auras and we could understand and see the intent of the politicians who stand in front of us. There would be no more debates. There would be, it would just be the debate of which person do we like best. Or maybe we just have two fantastic candidates that we're arguing about which one's gonna be better, and it just comes down to that. Wouldn't it be so much better to argue about two people who are fantastic for the job, who are pure of heart, who have all of the values that we hold dear to us, and we can vote on that instead of just based upon listening to their platform and what they say they stand for and what they don't show with their actions that they stand for, like every politician in existence. When we can tap into something like clairvoyance, we have the ability to either see with our eyes or have that intuition where we have that inner seeing, and we can know each other better. How much better would the world be when we're not all hiding behind the false perceptions we want to show each other? Now, I will give you this. If you have the ability to see auras, that doesn't mean that you can see everybody's intention. Some people are still closed off. When you truly do not want anybody to understand who you are or what your intentions are, but some people you won't be able to read because they're hiding their intentions. They're hiding who they are. So again, if you could see that and you could understand that I don't know what their intentions are. I can see all these other people and I can see their intentions, but this person right here is hiding their intentions. Why? It may give you pause when they're trying to convince you of something, but they're not being honest and they're not showing you who they are. The other part about the clairs that you can use in your everyday life that has nothing to do with anything supernatural is that they aid in your creativity to visualize. The clairs will help you be able, if you can close your eyes, and when I tell you to picture a beach and picture the waves as they move up and down the sand, as they come in and they go back out into the ocean. And I want you to picture a palm tree there, and I want you to picture the leaves of this palm tree blowing in the wind. If you're able to picture that, then you do have the gift of clairvoyance. Not everybody, believe it or not, is able to see things in their mind when they think about them. We call that our imagination. That's actually a part of clairvoyance, the clear seeing. You use that every day if you have that ability. People who have clairvoyance as a dominant trait are generally going to find themselves as artists, builders, photographers, decorators, designers, engineers, things like that, where you have to really be creative and think and be able to look at something and picture what it could be and not necessarily what it is. I hope you're enjoying this video so far. If you haven't already, go ahead and give a big thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also hit the bell notification so that you never miss out on a future video. You can check out some more videos here and here. You can go ahead and subscribe by hitting my face over here. And I love you guys. I will see you next time.